Hello and welcome with a new tutorial of gemstones. Today I'm going to show you how I make a nice feather with reflection on the water. So it's like a curly up feather, and I just have like a little pebble stone. It's not too big, it's not too rough, and I'm going to start with this eggplant color, purple, just as a base coat. I just use my flat brush and I just blob it on. The first layer really doesn't matter. You could actually also do a white, or maybe you want to change the colors completely and maybe start with the blue. I have here a very deep purple, and I'm just going to highlight the top of the rock, some right there, and also some at the bottom like here. So there's a light band just in the middle of the rock, and this is where the water and then the air meet. So you want to create like a line right in the middle to have a little bit lighter, and then the edges it's a bit darker. So this is the base coat. I recommend you having it to dry, and then maybe again, see, you can still see the rock underneath, so I'm just going to have another go. But anyway, so the light goes here in the middle, and the top goes darker and the bottom goes darker. You see, it's still not completely dry and I'm already covered in paint. So there you go. Let's start with some light lavender, and I'm just going to put some right in the middle. I'm just taking my brush, just a flat brush. It's just a cheap brush. I don't really have the means to really buy expensive brushes. I know they make a huge difference, but I'm just a hobby person that likes to make tutorials for people. So on the top of and the bottom, I'm using some of this eggplant purple. I love that color. There you go. I'll wipe the excess off, and some of that very deep purple. I think it's called Majestic or something like that. It's so dark, but it's beautiful. Right, everything is now covered, and I'm just gonna blob it with my brush. Just had it rinsed a bit and dried. If it's too wet, then you're just going to rub your paint off. So I'm just going to blob it like that, and the more I'm out on the top, see, the darker it becomes. Now you could leave it like that, it's already quite beautiful. Leave it to dry. See, this is how you can see the color better. I want to create like a little more of a band, so I'm taking some of that light lavender color and I'm just blobbing it in. Right, so my English is not perfect. I am from Holland, so I'm Dutch, so leave me a comment in the description at the bottom if you have troubles understanding what I'm saying. But anyway, to let it dry here, you see the gist of it, what I'm trying to create. This is the picture that we want to create on the rock. And when I look at pictures, I like to analyze what kind of lines there are. So this is the middle, and then you have a like slightly curved straight. So it's like a vertical line, but it's not really 100% vertical. And then you have here this bottom part, which is like more like an umbrella kind of shape. Do you see? It's like curved. A lot of people make the mistake that they put the feathers too straight. So they have two vertical lines. And in the bottom of this feather, you can see that there's much more going on that what meets the eye. So there's the reflection. You see much more of the feather underneath the feather in the reflection that you actually see in the top. So we like to create that as well. We should not forget the bottom part. So it's a beautiful little picture that I found on the internet. Somebody challenged me and said, why don't you make a curled up feather with its shadow? And I think she meant reflection, so therefore I took this one. So I've got my pencil here. I'm going to try to sketch it out. It's difficult to see, but if you just follow what I'm doing, you will probably see just enough. So I'm starting with this umbrella kind of shape, which is a curved line, you see, like an umbrella that is on the floor. And I'm just doing this in the middle where the light shade is, you see, like there. In the meantime, I always have my example on my computer so I can see, I can look. So this is like a triangle over here. I still remember that umbrella upside down, but this is more like a triangle shape. And this side is a little slightly wider than this side. I might change it up later on. So now, about in the middle of this line, I'm gonna make that vertical line, which is not really 100% vertical, but looks vertical enough, like that. And in the end, there's more going on to it. So there's like some couple of feathers or hairs. I don't know how you call these things. Sorry about that. So maybe you guys can help me. What do you call the little veins of the feather? Maybe it's veins, I don't know. Right, this is where it comes down. This side it meets about the top of this umbrella shape. So this is more or less the top, and now we begin with the bottom part, and of course they need to meet up. So if you have the top line and then a bottom line where the reflection is, it needs to line up, it needs to disappear in each other. What we need to be careful for is that the shapes are not too big versus the bottom, or too small. It needs to all make sense. And you would say, why art doesn't need to make sense? And you probably are 100% correct. You know, the good thing about art is it doesn't really need to make sense. I mean, that's why we can use crazy colors, and in this case, that's why I'm using white and purple in my feather. But when you look at the picture, it actually looks legit. It looks real. It could be true. It just needs to float on a purple river. Maybe Prince has something to do with it. Right, this is my sketch. I hope so far you can follow. I use these throwaway eyeline brushes, and maybe I'll use a flat brush. Now you have different kinds of white. So you've got white, cream and warm white. But I'll know that a lot of people only have the one color of white, which is normally titanium red or white. And I'll show you how you can just use, with a little bit of cashmere, how you can choose to mix it up in different tones. So I'll just add some white on my palette. This is a wet palette. I think they're ideal because it keeps my paint wet for a long time. And I use some of my cashmere beige or tan, and you can see I'm already creating this warm white. Now of course, the more tan you use, the darker it will become. You see, now I'm using this, it's a little bit darker, and now I'm back to a cream. So it's just choosing what kind of tones do you like. Now if you have, for example, a grey background, you want to use white with a little bit of tint of blue, and maybe also a little bit of black to make the shadow part grey. So it's all depending on what kind of background you choose. I mean, I saw some lady and she did my tutorial and she used blue, and in this case then you should not use purple, but then you should use blue as your shadow color. I hope that makes sense. So because my background is purple, I am using purple as my darker points and some background colored. So I just start here with the stem, and as you saw, I mix some of that purple with my white, and because the background is so dark, it really does show as that the feather will be white, and that's the lovely part of it. Pick up a little bit of the dark color and I just add it in the middle of that stem to create a little bit of depth in the stem of that feather, you see. I pick up a little bit of pure white and I'm just blobbing on, so here and there a little bit of the veins or the hairs. I have no idea what you guys call it. It doesn't matter, you see what I'm doing. There you go, a little bit more touch of purple and a little bit touch of purple and white together creates a bit of the illusion, because I use some of that beige color, you know, where the feathers stick into the bird. It's slightly darker, so that's why I use some of that warm white. So now I'm going to the little curly bit in the bottom and I'm just starting to stick out. So I'm going already in the direction of where the feather hairs would go to, so from the stem outwards. And the closer on this side, the closer to the stem, the lighter, and in the end it's darker. So it's all about where the shadow lays and where the highlight is, because the light is kind of dark in the background. You are creating the focus point front to the front, and therefore I want more light to the front, so where I'm painting at the moment, and the more that you come to the edge, and this side will be darker. So keep that in mind when you choose your colors. I'm using my little tiny eyeliner brush. They're dead cheap on Amazon, so for those who are interested. And you can reuse them as well, so you don't have to throw them away. I'm picking up some of the darker color. I just want to highlight this, you know, vein in the middle. I have no idea what you call them. I should have done my my studies before. Now I am busy on this side, but I will change this side up. I mean, you will see that later on, but just follow in a moment. But I found that this side of the feather is too white, so watch my tutorial completely and then skip this part where I'm too much up. I mean, this is what the reference picture showed. I just did not like it. It was just something that for me didn't add up. So although you do see me working on this side of that feather at the moment, I normally keep that in, because it's important to know that even when you are working with acrylics and you know you are quite comfortable, I won't say I'm an expert in painting because I am not, I'm just a hobbyer, you can make mistakes better. So in this case, it, for me, didn't look right, that side. And I will change it up later on. So don't spend too much time. I mean, you can even fast forward to me. How's that? I'll just keep my mouth shut. Right, back on this side. Over here, so just at the bottom, you want it lighter. All the way in the bottom. And very slowly, and with thin stripes. I'm not picking up too much paint in the first time, so I'm only painting with the tippy tops of my pencil, my what is this called? Pencil? I think it is. A little bit of purple here for the stem. Taking all the way to the top. Right. At the moment of time, I've still not done the edges here. So let me start with the edges, and I've picked up some purple, you see that, and I'll add some warm white just to keep this color darker. As you know, it should be darker on this side, like I explained earlier, because the shadow is falling on the top, so therefore the top is darker and the highlight is on the bottom of that feather. You see? So it's just a tad darker on the edge here. See, I already see there's something not quite right on the other side, and I just, at this moment of time, I cannot put my finger on it, so I will see it later. Look, I've zoomed in a little bit more so you can see better what I'm trying to do. So let me just go into the middle of that feather, and oh, now I forgot something. You have to, of course, go with the veins, and as you saw, I went totally the wrong direction of where the feathers should go to, you know, should go up. So therefore you saw that it was like, luckily I found my mistake, and I thought, oh, that's not right. Over here it's a little bit flipped, so the edges on this side are lighter, as you see, and closer to the stem is darker. Now I just picked up some white, and I'm just going crisscross. The feathers could be quite disorganized on this side, as long as you paint thinly. So you need to make sure that you only paint with the little tippy tops of your brush, and that you are not going too dark or you're not going too light. So keep some light, keep some pure colors for when you really need them. So my fingers always make my best erasers. I don't know if you've got the same thing, but when I'm painting, I love to use my fingers when I make a mistake. And then my doorbell goes and I'm having to open the door and I'm all covered in paint, but he's complaining. Right, on this side again, I'm going to keep it some lighter colors. So again, and I picked up some of that white, and I think I even put like a little bit of purple through it just to give it a little bit of color, and a little bit more now. So the closer I get to that bottom part, the darker I will become. Actually, I am not going to be darker. My paint is getting dark. Oh boy. Right, so over here you see that I'm getting more purple and less white, and then the stem on the top, it's more white than it is purple. So the amount of times I have to go over the stem to keep it like it is unbelievable. I am such a messy painter. But it always seems to work in the end. And that's why I love acrylic paint. You just go over your mistakes, and boy do I make mistakes. A bit more purple here. And the finer your brush is, the better the results will be. Going a little bit wider over here. Picking up some more purple. And take these feathers a little bit higher to blend in the top and the bottom better. There you go. Right, I have my coffee. So in between breaks, I switch off my computer. I'll leave the stone and have my lunch, and then I go back, and sometimes you see more. So it's always better then to just leave it and then come back, and then you can see where your errors are. You see, because you are layering your paints over each other, the more realistic it looks. So don't worry if you think, hey, something's not right, I need to go over that again. Just continue what you were doing, and you will see that eventually it will all make sense. Here close to the stem, I'm going to pick up a little bit of white or lighter color. You know, don't use pure white, not yet, if you don't need to. Because see, if you use pure colors, then you have nothing else to work with. So it's better to use a little bit diluted with your color, in this case purple. And then if you want some extra, you know, highlight, you can still pick up that pure white color for little touches here and there, lights or sparkles. Right, I'm going to leave the top at the moment, and I'm going to focus on the bottom. At this moment of time, because this of course is a voice over, I have not completely understood what is wrong with the top, so I'll leave that until later, and I'm going to focus on the bottom. So I'm using some of that pure purple that I have. It's not black, but I've mixed it up with a little bit of black just to make it that bit darker. So, and now I'm gonna take some of that purple and I'm gonna mix it with my lavender to create a darker shade. And why I'm doing that is that because of course the bottom, where the reflection of the feather is in the water, you need to create that a darker color. It's not a darker color, it's a darker tone than your original painting in the top. Otherwise it just looks like two feathers stuck together, and it's not looking like a feather that is floating on the water. So in the bottom here, I'm making sure that the exit or the ends of the feather are lighter. Why I'm doing that is that because that is where the light actually hits the water, so you would need to make that lighter because that's what you would see as well in the real picture. Because the shadow, of course, the closer to the bottom, the more shadow will fall underneath the feather, if that makes sense. I'm not, I don't know if I'm making sense for you guys. So I'm picking up some of that purple, you know, that I'm not using white at the moment, so everything is just purple at the moment, and some is darker than the other. So in this case it's still that purple color, but it's lighter on this side, and the more that you get to the bottom of the feather it's darker. And again I'm using long lines. I'm just pulling out that paint until it cannot go any further, and if you are got too dark or too light, you just go over it again like magic, you see. I love layering of the paints like this. So there you go, so that's that side, and in principle it's correct over there, so I can see that this side is correct. And of course what you also need to be careful for is that, see your stem, it needs to end up at the same point. Yeah, so I am creating here this little, like there's an opening in the feather on the top, and you see that same thing over here in the bottom, of course. This is like a mirror. In Canada they called it mirror. I always thought that was so funny. In my rear view mirror. Anyways, that's a little joke. Oh, too much. My fingers. Right. That's the bottom of this feather. It's looking quite well. Using some of that darker to fix my stem again. I'm just gonna go with a lighter purple on the other side of that stem. So you still see that dark stem on the other side, and this is the highlight of that. A little bit more, just blend that in a little bit. I'm opening this part up a little bit more. And I'm going to start on this side. Just outlining the feathers a little bit where they are. Sometimes it's handier to flip your rock instead of your hand. Everybody's got a good side and a bad side, and I love to make little thin lines from left to right, but the other way around I fail dramatically. So I normally just flip my rock so I can still go from left to right. Little tip. Right, so right underneath here it's a little bit darker again. So I'm just mixing up that dark purple. You saw that colour there. It's a very, like, almost like a yucky purple. A yucky purple. So it's a little bit of purple mixed with a little bit of that darker magenta, I think it is called. I'm not 100% sure, but it's just more or less purple with a little bit of black. Just to create a darker tone. And I've made that into... I mixed that with the cream white again to create this darker tone. You see how many times I have to pick up the paint, and I do that deliberately, because if you go too much in one go, and then you create these thick lines, and it's just not as nice as you paint thinly. So I'm not afraid just to go back to my palette over and over and over again. Just every time pick up a little bit, and even sometimes even in different tones and different color combinations. Don't be afraid to make your feather a total different color. You know, there's greens, there's blues you can think of. It doesn't need to be a nice white feather. It could be a brown feather, that'd be nice as well. And just remember the shadow points and the light points, and then you'll be good no matter what color you choose. So at the bottom here, like I said, the edges on the outside over here are lighter, and underneath it they're darker. And as long as you got that, then you can make any color you like. At the moment it's too light over there, I need to add some of that darker color. Just using some of that deep purple, and I'm creating this darker color just underneath it here, and the same on this side. Just picking up a little bit, a little bit more on this side. And another coffee feather. Right, now you see me adjusting this side. I think this side is just too wide, so I want to make this more a pointy feather at the moment. I think it's too much of a ugly wide feather. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm just gonna use some of that deep purple, and I'm just gonna rub out my mistakes. I'm just gonna fix this. So hopefully you've not went and you've listened to what I said in the beginning. You've listened to my tutorial first, and now you're going to do it for a second time, and you're going to be all set, and you don't have to make the same mistake that I did. And otherwise, you see how easy it is just to fix it. So I wanted this to be more of a point, and therefore I'm rubbing most of this part away, just to make it more, just make more sense of it. So I picked some of that white color, just trying to see the lavender, just to mimic that background, remember? I'm just going straight into my jar, my brush, and just go to the background here. Just fix my mistake. I'll blend it in later, like so, like nothing ever happened. A lot of people that are on YouTube, they're crazy talented, and I don't know if they never make mistakes, or they just cut them out. I don't do that. And the reason why is because I think you can be so quickly discouraged. It's like, oh, why did I not do that? And oh, I have to erase it again. And I just want to encourage everybody that, hey, everybody makes mistakes and it's okay to make mistakes and you can fix it. You know, don't just go over with black paint and then think I'll do it another time tomorrow. Just look to where you made a mistake and try to fix it. That's all. A little bit more highlight over here. Remember that reflection that we wanted in the water, so that little light band. So we want to create that white band over here. Make sure it is correct. There you go. So that's now more or less fixed. It might not be perfect, but hey, come on, who is perfect nowadays? Nobody is, isn't it? And if they do, then they're lying. Right, a little bit more of that eggplant. And what did you all say? Bob's your uncle. It's okay. It's all done. You can see already that the feather looks much more real at the moment. So you still have that wide effect on the bottom. I just want to make that curve a little bit more here. So it's a little bit more round. It was not completely round in the bottom and it just looked like there was, this side was not part of the other side. So I just want to make sure that that's correct. A little bit touch up over here. Doing my stem a little bit more. And I can take it all the way to the edges now. Tiny bit more here. Just want that arch to be perfect as you can. A little bit more on the bottom here. You know, make sure that these stems are meeting up. The one of the reflection versus the one that's sitting on top of the feather. Adding a little bit more highlights on this part. So this is again white mixed with purple to make a very light tint. You see it over here now. Picking up some of that purple. A little bit darker. That's better. This side as well. Here's me flipping my rock again. Just getting a little bit more of that darker colour of purple just at the bottom. Over here as well, I'll use some of that darker purple and then a little bit of that white just where the break in the feather is, just to highlight that part. Some of purple, just normal purple, you see. So you have, in principle, you have three colors. You've got the white, which are mixed with purple. You have the dark purple, and you've got the purple. So You almost can see my palette over there, so you almost can see what I mean, but the darker purple is at the bottom. And don't feel afraid, just mix these three colours together just to give you a different shade again. So over here it's just that purple, this lavender, you see that's this colour, and the bottom there you have that dark colour like this one. And I'm mixing some of them together. You saw that. And I keep going in the direction of the feathers. There you go. It's getting there, it's getting there. I'm not easily satisfied. I don't know if you guys are the same. This is that reflection from the top. You can see this spur. So you want to create that as well, and that is a little bit lighter. There you go. Right, let's fix this part now. I mean, my background is now dry and I can fix my big mistake. I'm picking up some of that dark color. I'm first gonna fix this part a little bit more. Mixing some lavender in it. Oh, too much. This side is just biting me in the butt. Right, slowly picking up some paint and slowly going, and this, I want this to go up the way. I cannot just, this is, I'm going to create that little break in the feather right here. Originally had it much higher, but I'm going to create it right here. And now picking up some of that lavender whitish color, just going up towards the point of that feather. Every time picking up a little bit goes a long way. Nice and thin, because you still want to little bit, you want to see that background of that purple peeping through. Now if you did too much, then just pick up some of that purple that you have and just go over the edges so that you create that little illusion of transparency throughout the feather. Making it a little bit darker here. And sometimes the most simple pictures are the most challenging. I don't know if you have the same thing, that you see a picture and think, oh, that'll be easy, and then you start it and then it's actually a lot harder than you gave credit for. And this is one of those pictures that I really underestimated it, and that is because I want to do it so perfectly that, you know, it's a challenge. Nevertheless, I'm there at the moment. I'm going to just do here and there, little line, like so. And I think that's it. I think he's done for now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like my tutorial, can you please subscribe to my channel? It's called Gemstones, and I will try to upload all of my previous tutorials into English, so hopefully you will enjoy them as much as other people in Holland do. And I'll see you the next time. Bye bye.